What do you do when you're doing everything right, but your audience still isn't growing? Why isn't your audience buying? And how can you boost the value of your offers? Well, you're about to find out. Welcome to the I Want to Know podcast. My guest today is Sally Ivester. Sally helps individual contributors get a competitive edge so they can reach their career goals faster. She does this through her newsletter, her course on Maven, her social channels such as LinkedIn and TikTok, and her digital products. She also happens to be one of my clients, and it's one of my favorite clients who I am super excited to talk to and help in this episode. So, hey, Sally, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Josh. I am so excited. This is like the highlight of my month. So I can't wait to get into this with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Me too. And I love when we were talking about this. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast and talk about it is because I think you're feeling something that's so common. And so many people that listen to this show are feeling, which is they're like, I'm doing all the things and it's not working and I don't understand what am I missing here. And I think you're a great example also because again, not to sort of kiss your ass, but it's clear that you're smart. It's clear that you're working hard. It's clear that I think you have a really good and strong niche. And on paper, it's Sally should be blowing up, like what's missing. And this episode gave me an excuse to sort of dive in. And I think I found some of the things that are missing. So I'm looking forward to connecting the dots for you today. So let's get right into it. What is the first thing you want to know?
I can't wait for that. Awesome. Just to sort of give people a little bit of background too, as we
Mhm.
go into these questions. I basically am trying to figure out how to be a solopreneur and I'm struggling within the first year. I got a full-time job. I'm trying to do this thing that I'm really passionate about. I don't want it to just be like a hobby. I want it to be something that I can grow. And to your point, I'm trying everything. I love being one of your clients, doing all the different tips. I got the newsletter going, got social going, got all the posting consistently. So you got those things checked off, but something's not hitting. And I think the first question that I have is ultimately, I'm struggling to build this audience. I'd love to get your perspective, like on what am I doing wrong?
I had so many thoughts, and I'm going to give some general tips that are universal and for everyone listening. And then we're going to go deep dive into your actual stuff and some things that I see. So the first thing I just want to point out is, should audience growth really even be a goal? And I always like to say, be careful what you optimize for because it's a little different and, semantics matter a lot. So it's interesting that the question is, I'm struggling to grow my audience. How do I grow my audience? Not, I'm struggling to get buyers. How do I get buyers? Those are not the same thing. They may be related and they can be related in some ways, but you want to be careful and you want to make sure that in your case, you don't really care about a big audience. You would rather have a small audience and lots of buyers than a big audience and few buyers,
Heck,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So everything you want to do and the things that I'm going to talk about is that you want to remember that you're optimizing for buyers, not audience. Now, that said, you're not going to get buyers if nobody's seeing your stuff. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing things to attract an audience. It just means like you don't need millions of people. You don't need a massive thing. You don't need likes on TikTok. You need buyers of your course and your products. When it comes to audience growth, with that caveat that you're always focused on sort of getting the right people who are going to be buyers, there are really three different elements to audience growth, right? So number one is how many people are seeing you? How many people are generally becoming aware of you? How many are seeing your posts, coming across your newsletter? How many hearing about you from word of mouth? How many people even know you exist? And even think about it in terms of, you may not know exact numbers, but you're like, roughly this many people know I exist right now. How many more are going to know about you in 3 months?
Yeah.
Because if that number is 10, your maximum potential audience growth is 10. There's that sort of awareness piece. The second key here is how many of the people that are becoming aware of you are the right people.
Yeah.
So this is a fool's gold situation that a lot of people fall into where they're like, oh, I got this many views, or I got this many likes, or even got this many email subscribers. And it's, yeah, but those are the wrong people.
Yeah.
So what happens is sometimes people feel like their quote unquote audience is growing, but it's the wrong people and it's not converting. And that's a separate thing that I know we're going to get into as well. So the first one, how many people are seeing you in the first place? How many of those people are the right people? And then the third one is how many of the right people are connecting to you? So when someone sees something of yours, are they following you? Are they ideally getting on your email list? Whatever. Because one of the things that the way I define audience is not how many people have seen your stuff, but how many people do you know will see your next thing? And without a connection, even a social media follow, only 10% of them, maybe if you're lucky, you're going to see your next post because organic reach is so low. So that's the other thing as your audience does grow to keep in mind, how many can I actually reach? I have 32,000 newsletter subscribers, right?
Yeah.
Now, not all of them are opening. I have a pretty good open rate, but so I know if whatever I send to people, let's say 15,000 of them are going to open it.
Yeah.
So I know, so when I'm even thinking about my audience, I'm not thinking about even the fact that I have 30,000. I'm going like, all right, I have 15,000 roughly that I know will see it.
Mhm.
And then, I have 30,000 Twitter followers, but, my average tweet gets maybe a couple thousand impressions. And an impression means it showed up in their feed. It doesn't mean they were actually seeing it. So even as your audience grows, being realistic about, okay, well, how many people can I actually get this in front of? Because one of the other things that happens is people get discouraged when it comes to buyers and stuff, because they're like, oh, I have, 4,000 people on my email list. Why do I only have 4 sales? Well, you're not really, 4,000 people aren't really seeing the thing that you're promoting. Keep that in mind. So all that said, if you want to grow your audience, here are the first 6 things to do if you feel stuck and you feel like your audience isn't growing. Number 1, publish daily and double down on what works. Every individual post is a shot. It's a piece of real estate. It's a lottery ticket, right? Plus, if you publish daily, you will get better at publishing. And if you're paying attention to what works, you should be publishing more stuff like that. Number 2, focus on one social platform and a newsletter. A newsletter because email is the strongest connection you can have and the best way to reach people. One social platform because it is really hard and takes a lot of time to grow on any social platform. And if you spread yourself across multiple, usually you will grow slower than if you just focus on one. You take all the time that you're spending on those 4 other platforms and refocus it into the one platform, you will grow faster. You can always down the road, once you have grown on one platform, it's much easier to grow in the others because now you can say, oh, if I have a big LinkedIn following, I can go, hey, I'm on Instagram now. And right off the bat, you have more people.
Yeah.
Also, you can take content that is proven to work on that one platform and use it on the other and speed up your growth that way. So initially, I'm a big proponent of focusing on one platform.
Okay.
The third thing to do if your audience isn't growing is to create remarkable content. And that's a Seth Godin term. And basically what I mean by that is you need content that is good enough for people to want to talk about it if
Yeah.
you want to grow. If
Yeah.
you're okay at your current audience size, you don't necessarily need them to talk about it. You just need them to find it valuable and whatever.
Yeah.
But you're only going to grow if people are spreading the word. So it has to be good enough, unique enough, surprising enough, something that makes people want to say, oh, you got to see this. The fourth thing to do if your audience isn't growing is to aim for replies and shares, not likes. So a like doesn't do much for you.
Yeah.
A reply is higher valued in the algorithm, so it's going to get more reach. And also that person's followers are going to see it. So if you're trying to grow, again, you got to get in front of more people, which means you got to create content that is going to draw out more replies, create content that people are going to share, aim for that as opposed for just something that someone's going to like and go, oh, okay, that was good. The fifth thing to do if your audience isn't growing, engage with everyone who engages with you. This is actually easy when your audience is small. It's one of the advantages of a small audience. Every reply you get, you should reply to. Number 1, it encourages people to reply more. It draws them closer to you, which ultimately you're going to be trying to sell them, which makes that more likely to happen. The other thing it does is those comments count as engagement. So if you have a LinkedIn post and 2 people comment and you reply, now that post has 4 comments, which is going to make it more likely to spread. So you want to make sure that you do that. The opposite is also true. If someone replies and you don't reply to them, that does not encourage them to reply again. So that can actually spin positive or negative depending how you do it. And then the sixth thing to do if your audience isn't growing is to get in front of other people's audiences. And I'm going to talk about how to do that in a second, but that is super powerful. That's actually like the cheat code quickest way to grow. So the 6 things to do if your audience isn't growing: publish daily, double down on what works, focus on one social platform and a newsletter, create remarkable content that's good enough for people to want to talk about it, aim for replies and shares, not likes, engage with everyone who engages with you, and get in front of other people's audiences. Okay. Sounds so simple, right? But it's not. Okay. I want to dive in a little deeper to that last one because I think it's super important and really is the sort of quickest and easiest and most cost-effective way to grow. How do you get in front of other people's audiences? So I'm going to give you another 6 ways. So here are 6 ways to get in front of other people's audiences. Number 1, reply to other people's posts with value.
Yeah.
Don't just say, love the post, interesting thing. Say something and with value and interesting enough that other people who see it are going to want to click and go, who's Sally?
Yeah.
Number 2, join and contribute to one community. Now, that could be a Facebook group, a LinkedIn group, a message board. It could be a paid community. It could be find someplace where your ideal clients are hanging out that you don't own. Doesn't have to be your community. Join it. Don't go in there promoting your stuff. Just go in there providing value and answering and becoming seen as part of that community. And what's going to happen is you start replying regularly. So in your case, let's say you join a community where it's people talking about how to get ahead in their career. And you go in there and you don't even have to post for a while, right? You're just replying. People are asking questions. What do I do in this situation? You're just giving them advice. And very quickly, people are going to go, oh, who's this Sally person? That was smart. And they're going to click your profile. And now they're going to learn what your world is about. And if you're doing that regularly, imagine if every day or every couple of days, they're seeing Sally being genuinely helpful and sharing her expertise. Very quickly, that whole community is now going to become aware of and follow you. Great way to get in front of other people's audiences. The third way to get in front of other people's audiences is cross promotions. Find other people, podcasts, newsletters, social accounts, whatever it is. They don't have to be big. They can be small, but just someone that it's like they have an audience that would resonate with your stuff and your audience would likely resonate with their stuff. Doesn't have to cost anything. Hey, let's promote each other. Let's share each other's content. Let's do something. You can even go find 3 or 4 people and say, hey, let's all grow together. Let's just sort of casually agree that, once a week, we're going to share each other's stuff. We're going to whatever and go from there. The fourth way to get in front of other people's audiences is to guest on podcasts. Mm-hmm. Again, it doesn't have to be big because you're chasing buyers, not mass reach. So, there's someone that has a podcast that's speaking to, in your case, let's say speaking to people that are starting out their careers and looking to advance. And that person has 60 listeners. And you might go, that's not worth my time. But in your case, it is worth your time because they're the perfect people. And of those 60 listeners, and in a podcast, you can talk and you can really showcase your expertise. Those 60 listeners might include 6 buyers. Very simple to do. And shows like that, they need guests, right? They want to do it. The fifth way to get in front of other people's audiences is PR. So you can, again, guesting on podcasts is a version of that, but also press, local press, blogs, newsletters. Yeah. Can you get on local TV? Can you find an angle to get sort of traditional PR, which people overlook, but can still be effective? And then the last one is paid ads. So if you have a budget or, you can buy ads, and newsletters are usually cost effective if you can get the right audience. Obviously, you can do Facebook ads, you can do all that kind of stuff. So paid ads can work. It doesn't mean that you have to do that. Those other 5 are ways you can get in front of people's audiences without spending $1. But it would be irresponsible for me not to mention that paid ads is also a possibility.
That all makes sense.
Any questions about any of that before I'm going to dive into sort of the specifics I saw in your accounts and what you're doing?
I think all of that makes sense. And I can't wait to hear the specifics because I feel as if all of that rationally makes sense, but like the execution of it, I feel like that's where I'm stumbling, right? And I don't know if others are stumbling too, especially since we're less than like a year in my entrepreneur journey, but all of that totally makes a lot of sense. And I love the idea of commenting on other people's stuff and providing that type of value. I think that's the way to go. The one question I do have, and you might get into this, is which platform, right? And how do you think about platform depending on the goal, depending on the audience? So all of that is sort of like in my mind somewhere.
So I am going to get into that. And let me ask you a question. When I was talking through the sort of 6 things to do, the publish daily, focus on one social platform, create remarkable content, aim for replies and shares, engage with everyone who engages with you, get in front of other people's audiences. Do you feel like you're doing those things now? If you were to grade yourself, and obviously you're publishing on more than one platform, so, whatever, but in general, like if you were to sort of give yourself, 0 to 100 score of how well you're doing that, how well would you say you're doing that now?
I love that question. So here's where I think I would give myself a bad score. I don't think I'm not engaging with the people who are commenting. Look, there's not a ton of people who are commenting. Let me be, so it's not like there's a huge volume, but I'm not engaging with them. And I think I need to. So that's one critical piece I can immediately start doing. The piece where I am tripping up a tiny bit is my work actually remarkable, right? Is what I'm posting actually remarkable? And I think I have this larger question of, am I positioning myself the right way? Is this the right niche? Am I providing the right value? If so, I know that there are ways to go deep that you talk about in your skill sessions, but I don't even know if I'm like on the right topic. And that's a big question mark for me. But when it comes to posting consistently, yes. When it comes to, can't remember all the things that you said, Josh. I wish I will write it down next time, but posting.
Yeah, Yeah, you got most of it. Publishing daily, doubling down on what works, focusing on one platform. You have a newsletter, creating remarkable content, aiming for replies and shares, not likes, engaging with everyone who engages with you, and getting in front of other people's audiences. So I think you hit them. So I think that here's what I saw. And I think some of this you kind of know, and some of it might be eye opening for you. I looked at your LinkedIn account. You have 29 posts in the last 2 months, which means you're roughly posting every other day. So that's not daily. Now, I know you've been using TikTok and Instagram, whatever, but if I'm just looking at LinkedIn in a vacuum, I'd go, okay, well, she's not posting daily. You've only had 11 posts on LinkedIn in the last month. So that's like once every 3 days. So right off the bat, that means in terms of from an audience growth perspective, that means on LinkedIn, just looking at LinkedIn in a vacuum. I know it hasn't been your priority necessarily, but looking at it in a vacuum, you only took 11 shots at growing your audience. It's better than 5, but it's not 30
Yeah.
in the last month. So that's the first thing. Now, this is the one, and you're absolutely right. I think one of the biggest missed opportunities for you is you're not engaging. And I think this goes back to the way you get buyers is by building individual relationships, not mass reach. In the last month, you've had 14 people have commented on your posts. You've only replied to 3 of them.
Yeah.
So
big difference. So that's a big,
And by the way, this is super common. I see this all the time where people are like, why isn't my audience growing? How do I grow audience? And I'm like, you're ignoring the people you have. So 11 people tried to engage with you or said nice post or said whatever. And even if you even not hey, thanks for commenting, not a whatever, right? The other thing is all of that is engagement that could have fueled bigger reach of the posts. Could have made it more likely for them to comment again, more likely for them to see the next post, all those things. So that's, 11 of 14 missed opportunities, including there was someone who commented on one of your posts asking for a link to your class that you didn't reply to. So that's somebody basically going, hey, I'm interested. I might want to buy. I might want to whatever, nothing. And again, I'm not beating you up for this because everybody does this, but I think it's eye-opening for people to sort of see and go, oh, wait a second. Like I'm going, why is my audience not growing? And yet I'm ignoring the ones that are there. In terms of commenting on other posts, for the most part, you're not doing that at all. And when you are, you're just, oh, congratulations when somebody has something good, which is fine. But that goes back to posting replies that are going to lead people to go, who's this person? Treat a reply almost like you would a post.
Yeah.
A regular post. So again, just missed opportunities. So that's LinkedIn. TikTok, I would say and this is true to do on any platform, but you always want to study like what's worked the best. So I went on your TikTok where you have been posting more. I think you post almost daily.
Yeah.
So I went on TikTok and I was like, all right, let me see what her most successful videos have been. What do they have in common? And what I noticed a couple things. So number one, your 3 most, and look, platforms like TikTok and Instagram and sort of increasingly these other platforms, it's all the magic of the algorithm and who knows, and followers aren't as important and whatever, but you can still learn from what's working. So your 3 most successful videos in terms of views have no music. They're just you talking.
Yeah.
They also, all 3 of them have actionable advice, which I'm a huge proponent of, but there's something people can do with what you're telling them. And they all have, for the most part, what I would call sort of strong take. So the 3 videos that have the most views for you on TikTok are, one was the formula to disagree at work. So you're basically telling people like, if you disagree with something, here's how to do it. The second one was what the top 1% of talent does. So again, you're kind of telling people what to do. And then number 3, the number 1 rule of a corporate job, right? So they're not music. They're not, any of that sort of stuff. That doesn't mean that's what you need to do, but there's signals there, right? That you can look at that and go, okay, this is what's actually worked on this platform. Instagram, mostly crickets. You're posting regularly. You're not getting much. And same thing with TikTok for the most part. You've had a couple videos pop off, but for the most part, you're not getting all that much. So my initial take is, are Instagram and TikTok really the platforms you should be using? And is the time you're putting into them worth it? Probably not. Especially with you're focused on career. LinkedIn is a career platform.
Yeah.
You have more followers on LinkedIn than you have there. TikTok and Instagram are entirely basically algorithm dependent. You're throwing stuff up there and maybe they show it to people, maybe they don't. LinkedIn has some of that, but you have more influence on LinkedIn and the ability to see stuff. You also can, on LinkedIn, you can find the kinds of people that are leaders in your space and reply to their stuff and get in front of them. So my recommendation would be put all your emphasis into LinkedIn. Don't worry about Instagram and TikTok. You can still make videos and experiment with those on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is now doing sort of short form stuff. And I think it's getting good reach. So by all means, you can do the kind of, experiment with that kind of content. But I think number one, it's simpler for you. But number two, if you take all the time that you're putting into these other things, focus it all on LinkedIn, do that for at least 3 months or 6 months and
Yeah.
see where you are and start replying to every comment and replying on other people's stuff. I guarantee you're going to see growth. And I think, the sort of bigger picture here, which again, you fall into the category. I have a blog post, which I'll link in the show notes, which basically says like, everyone falls into one of two categories when it comes to audience growth. You're either doing too much or you're not doing enough. You're doing too much, trying to be too many places, trying to do too many, which is what most people do, right? There are some people that are like, why isn't my audience growing? It's, well, you're never posting anything. So yeah, you need to do more, but that's not you. You just need to focus it in and be like, this is what I'm doing. It's on LinkedIn. It's about, it's about this specific stuff. And that's my focus. And I think you will very quickly see growth.
Okay.
And see relationships. And I don't think you're that far. I think you're missing a couple of the key points. Any questions about any of that?
That just feels so, it feels so eye-opening, but also so duh, and I'm so glad that you're telling it to me, Josh, because that makes a ton of sense. And to have your framework of these are the 6 things that you need to do.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're failing at 50% of them. That's really eye-opening. And so I really appreciate that. I will, after this, start commenting and then also doubling down on LinkedIn. I guess my question to you, and I don't know what it is, but I'm still wondering, is my take right? Is my like niche, is what I'm talking about, is that the right angle to go in, or do I could potentially pivot? The reason I say it is because, and you might hear this from a lot of people, there's like a lot of different things I do. But my passion is helping people who are just younger, who are trying to figure out this corporate job, because unfortunately you don't learn this in school. But I'm like this chief of staff when it comes to my full-time job. And so that actually people reach out to me for all the time, right? Like, how do I become this? How do you do this? How do you, all this kind of stuff. And when I post about more of the chief of staff stuff, that actually gets more engagement on LinkedIn than my early career stuff. But that might just be because the people who follow me right now or are connected to me are at the same, level that I am. So I would love to just get your take on what do I do and am I in the right niche?
So there is no quote unquote right niche.
Yeah.
It's what do you want? It's what do you want to happen? And then you reverse engineer and optimize for that. So if what you want to happen is to grow this business, grow this side hustle, sell courses, whatever, then you optimize for that. If that's not what you want to happen, then you optimize for something else. And again, the key is alignment. And it's funny, this is a great setup for what we're going to go into in your next question. So I think I'm going to talk about I'm going to address a lot of the things that you're just talking about. So before we do that, just a quick side note. I mentioned Sally's a client of mine. I'm helping her get more clients from her content, as you can see. If that's something you would like help with, go to joshspector.com/group coaching. On that page, you'll see the very unique way that I work with clients. If it interests you or you have any questions about how I can help you, email me at josh@joshspector.com. Okay, let's get to your second question, which is going to lead into a lot of the things that you were just sort of talking about. So
Yeah.
what is the second thing you want to know?
Okay, so we talked about building an audience. We talked about, buyers and really focusing on them and what to do next. Now, the second question really becomes, I am really struggling to convert the audience I do have. So what am I missing from this component and how can I do better?
So again, we'll sort of set things up sort of broad and then get more specific. So the first is 2 key things to remember when it comes to converting your audience. Number one, you can't convert people that don't know you exist. So if your audience is small, it's an awareness problem more so than it's a conversion problem. So that's a piece of it. But the second, and this is the one that people really overlook, and I think is the biggest problem that I typically see or people don't realize, is that you can't convert the wrong people. So if you're attracting the wrong people, they're never going to convert. And the views and the engagement and all that stuff doesn't matter because they're not the right person. So I'm going to give you an example on a sort of micro level. You have a TikTok video where you're pointing to a tweet about how booking flights should happen on a laptop and not a phone. And it did really well. It's like one of your most viewed, I think 6,000 people viewed it. Totally meaningless because they're not your buyers. So that's a hit video that can make you feel like, oh, I'm getting traction. But it's not actually getting you traction with people that matter. And you could argue because a platform like TikTok is so algorithm driven that TikTok is, oh, this person likes Sally's video. I'm going to show her future videos to more people like these. So it has the double impact of it's meaningless and it might actually be working against you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing where, and one of the things I always talk about is I'm a big believer in whatever your goal is, your content should be aligned and focused on that consistently. You
Yeah.
don't want to be like, oh, I'm throwing this over here, or that over here, or whatever for those reasons. It can actually work against you. And alignment, the truth is, alignment is the biggest thing that prevents people in your audience from converting into buyers. Either you attracted the wrong people up front, you're talking about things that don't align with the product you're selling, and then you go, I don't know. And you see this all the time. You see people a lot of times, they'll build a really big audience and they go, I don't understand why people aren't buying. And it's, you got a bunch of followers because you talk about the Dodgers. That's an extreme example, but you know what I mean? So the question becomes like, how do you make sure you're attracting an aligned audience, right? How are you attracting the right people? And to do that, you need consistent messaging and consistent content that needs to be hyper aligned. The more aligned it is, the better. And sometimes that alignment will cost you broader reach. But again, going back to the beginning, we're not looking for audience, we're looking for buyers. There's no one way to do this, but it's about making a choice with what you want to accomplish. So in your case, if you're going to use LinkedIn, what's my number one goal? What am I trying to accomplish out of LinkedIn beyond reach and followers, whatever? And if it's to attract buyers to your course and build that thing, then everything should be aligned for that. So to give you some examples of how alignment goes sideways in sort of your current setup, your LinkedIn bio says, I scale operations for high performing tech leads, but your product is a course that says reach your career goals faster.
Yeah.
Those are not the same thing.
Yeah.
So what happens is, even if you're posting content about reaching your career goals faster, let's say you replied on someone else's thing and they go, oh, who's Sally? Right. And they click and they see she scales operations for high performing tech leads. I'm the person who wants to reach my career goals. I'm not necessarily following you. I don't think you're for me.
Yeah.
And the person who is following you isn't necessarily looking to reach their career goals faster.
Yeah.
So that little stuff, like that alignment between how am I describing myself? What's my messaging and what's my content and what's the product that those things need to be, the more aligned they are, the better it's going to work. This goes down to a content level, right? So I looked at your last 5 LinkedIn posts and this is roughly what they're about. One is 3 ways the corporate world has changed. The second one is ever wonder why a chief of staff role is gaining popularity. The third one is here's what top 1% talent does differently. The fourth one, here's what I do as a chief of staff. The fifth one, my client wins make my wins more valuable. Now, ever wonder why a chief of staff role is gaining popularity has nothing to do with reaching career goals faster. Here's what I do as a chief of staff has nothing. That's that other sort of niche, which is what you were kind of getting at before, right?
Yeah.
Here's what the top 1% talent does differently. Okay, that's pretty aligned. My client wins make my wins more valuable. You were showing some testimonials of people talking about sort of how you help them reach their career goals. So that's aligned. 3 ways the corporate world has changed, relatively aligned. So 3 out of 5 are relatively aligned. Then you have these other 2 that are about the chief of staff and have nothing to do with anything. But that 2 of 5 is 40% of your posts.
Yeah.
So those are fine if you decide you want to use LinkedIn for your chief of staff role and you're going down a different thing. But you can also be fooled and misled. That's why it's important to understand your goal, because you can go, oh, my chief of staff content is working really well. Well, it's working really well in terms of engagement and reach maybe, but it's not working well in terms of buyers because it's misaligned, right? So once you realize my goal is not just reach and likes and audience growth, my goal is buyers. So I need to be doing these kind of things. And one of the things that I think is helpful is every piece of content you create, every one of your posts, you can run through the filter of the value you offer in your product.
Right.
You have a pretty clear and pretty solid description of the value of your course, which is I'm going to help you reach your career goals faster. So any piece of content you're going to create, you can look at it and you go, is this going to help someone reach their career goals faster? Because if it's not, it might be awesome, but I'm not going to post it. And by the way, so for me, the core value I'm offering people is helping them get clients from their content. I could talk about a million other things and probably have the post do pretty well, but I don't, because it just clutters the message and it's not going to attract what I want. I could write posts about being a dad of a 2-year-old girl. And honestly, they probably would get bigger reach and have a chance of going viral or whatever, because there's a lot more dads of 2-year-old girls and a lot more people interested in that than people who want to get clients from my content. But what's the point? That's not what I'm trying to do. So this also goes into your newsletter, right? Alignment is everywhere. And once you see it, So your newsletter headline is a newsletter for tech individual contributors who want to reach their career goals faster. Okay, so reach their career goals faster. That aligns with what you're doing. It says it's for a person that your course headline doesn't really specify. So tech individual contributors, like, okay, so the newsletter's for them, but if I'm not that and I just want to reach my career goals faster, that's for you to decide.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of like, why is the newsletter saying it's for this specific audience, but then the course doesn't say it's for that specific audience. And so it's sort of making choices. So that's the first big thing, right? Figuring out alignment and making sure everything is aligned with each other to boost your conversions. Now let's talk a little bit about some of your products. And right now you have sort of lead magnet, free product. You have low price product, like a $7 low ticket offer. And then your
Mhm.
course, I think, is like $750. So my first
Okay.
question for you is, why are you selling a $7 product? What's
I
the
basically
goal?
want to give, well, I think I'm trying to sell it cheap because I want to just get more and more people into the ecosystem, like to grow my newsletter base, to be able to just like, talk to engage with them, but also because I think it's valuable and I want to make a little bit of money off of it. It's like, totally helped me. It's helped other people. I know it can work for them too. And so that's why I also want to make money and also want to use it as a way to grow the base.
Okay. So if you want to grow the base, free would grow it better than $7
Yeah.
in theory, right? If that's the goal of it. If you want to make money, $20, $25, $40 will make more
Yeah.
than $7. So you're splitting the difference and as a result, getting neither. By charging something for it, you're reducing the people that are going to consume it and be like, wow, Sally's brilliant. But you're also not making enough money to off of it for it to really generate revenue. In general, I don't recommend selling products in that $5, $10. 20 is probably the lowest I would go. And you could make a case that it should even be more than that. The other problem with something like a $7 product is from a brand perspective, you are messaging
Yeah.
that you're the kind of person that sells $7 products.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's where you want to be brand wise. You have
Yeah.
these amazing credentials, work for Google. If you think about it from the outside looking in, if you were to hire someone to help you with your career and you saw that they had a $7 product, I don't know that that would increase your desire to hire them. I think you'd probably be like, why are they selling a $7 product? You can sort of pick where you want to be in the ethos of things. I think it makes more sense. By the way, your course is 100 times that.
Yeah.
That's a massive jump. My advice for that product would be to decide, what is my goal? Is it get more people to experience this thing, or is it to make money? And if it's to make money, then this should be more because that also reflects on what, I don't, a $7 buyer probably isn't a $750 buyer.
Yeah. You're right.
You probably don't want the $7 buyer. So even if you're going to have a low ticket price, that's fine, but go more than seven, right? Make it $49, $25, something a little higher than that. The
Yeah.
only justification in theory, in my opinion, for selling like a $10-ish product would be if you're using that money to fund your marketing. So you're like, okay, I'm selling a $10 product and every 10 that I sell is $100 that I can put into buying Facebook ads or buying ads in a newsletter or doing whatever. So in that case, you're not actually trying to make money off the product. You're just trying to use it to get a marketing budget to whatever. And then your theory is that, okay, I make $100 and I use the $100 to then bring in a client who buys my 700 course or whatever. You could theoretically make that case. There are a lot of people that do that. They use their low ticket offers just to generate money to raise marketing budget. Even in that case, I still probably think it should be a $20 product, but that's one thing to think about. On the lead magnet piece, or free product piece, right? So one of the things you have is you have a career starter checklist.
Yep.
Really good idea, except there's one problem and it goes back to alignment. The career starter checklist appeals to the person just starting their first job. Your course appeals to the person who feels stuck. They've already started. They're frustrated and annoyed that they're not advancing. So this is a good example of it's close, but it's attracting the wrong buyer.
Yeah.
So if instead of a career starter checklist, it was a how to get your promotion checklist, something along those lines, that's aligned. You want the person that's stuck, not the person that's just started, because the person that just started, they don't have a problem. They're like happy. Yes, they want to advance and they want it to be quick, but like I just started. So it should be something about a get promoted checklist, a get unstuck or get a new job checklist. Want to go someplace where you're appreciated checklist. Like that kind of thing. Again, with all of this, I think very much like my other advice, less. You don't need multiple lead magnets. You can have them and you can grow to that and whatever. But at the end of the day, you need one source of traffic that's drawing people in, one lead magnet, if you're going to do lead magnet, to convert them, one funnel to push them through. Once they get on my list, they do X, Y, and Z. And you can always expand later. And you may need to test different ones to find what works. But I think it can be helpful for you to focus on sort of one step at a time. And this is what I'm doing, right? I'm going to just use LinkedIn and my newsletter. I'm going to push this one lead magnet to get people to join. When the people join, they're going to do step A, B, and C to try to get them there. And then you can always expand later. So the last thing I wanted to give you here about conversions is, here are 3 things you can do to increase your conversions and improve the alignment of your content, messaging, and product. So the first one is compare the headline of your sales page to your bio, social posts, and lead magnet titles. They should be aligned and maybe even use some of the same words. So if your course is how to advance your career faster, your lead magnet might want to have some of those words about advancing your career faster, because the person that gets that, is already interested in it. Doesn't mean they'll buy, but perfectly aligned, right? Your social posts, your bio, all of that, same words. The second thing to do is, in your social content, reference clients whenever possible, clients or customers or buyers, even if anonymously. And so what I mean by this, I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you're going to share a piece of content that's here's how to handle one-on-one meetings. That exact same content, your intro to it could be, here's how I teach my clients to handle one-on-one meetings. That subtle reference, so that everyone that consumes it knows, oh, she works with people. Oh, she could help me. You want anyone who sees your content to know they can hire you to help them. Doesn't mean you have to be every time saying, hire me, hire me, hire me. There's no difference in the content between here's how to handle one-on-one meetings and here's how I teach my clients to handle one-on-one meetings, other than they now know that you work with clients. So those subtle references all the time. And then the third thing you can do to increase your conversions and improve alignment is identify 3 to 5 emotions that your ideal clients are feeling and repeatedly address them in your content and messaging. So I'm gonna give you another example. Instead of a post that just says, here are 3 ways the corporate world has changed, it might be, do you feel frustrated with the way the corporate world has changed? Here are 3 ways to navigate it. Do you feel stuck in your job? So you can figure out, these are the 3 to 5 emotions that my ideal buyers have. And I'm always going to be in my content, whenever possible, sort of plugging in that emotion. As opposed to just, here's how to get a promotion, you could say, do you feel overlooked by your boss? Do you feel taken advantage of? Do you feel emotions are super powerful and they drive people to buy, which means if you layer them into your content, people are going to feel seen and heard and understood and go like, oh, she gets me. And it adds a layer of power and impact to your content beyond the sort of just pure tactic. Those 3 things can definitely help improve your conversions. Any questions about any of that?
That's brilliant. I love it. Like that, all of that makes a ton of sense. And you're right. You have to align all of the different types of messaging. So one thought here, which is I love my full-time job. I want to continue doing it. And part of why I have that specific bio on LinkedIn is because that reflects my full-time job. So if I wanted to highlight more of the hobby that I have now, do I like literally just put an and I help individual contributors reach their career goals faster?
So it becomes priorities, and it becomes priorities not in your life, but specifically about LinkedIn. So for example, if you were like, I have a job, I'm happy in my job, I want people to know that's what I do, but I don't need LinkedIn to help me get a promotion or get a new job or whatever. That's not my main goal right now. My main goal for LinkedIn is to help attract people to buy this course and do whatever. So my bio would lead with that. And then at the second part of the bio could be your current stuff. Because keep in mind, when people see you on LinkedIn, it pulls that first line of your bio, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, obviously, you're not going to not have your job on your LinkedIn page and whatever, and you can have it in your bio if you want. But if your main goal from LinkedIn is to attract buyers to this course and build that audience, then lead with that in your bio and have the second part be the chief of staff, whatever, which is also good because it gives you credibility, right? So I actually think it's good that it's in there as well. I help people do blah, 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 blah. And you could combine them, right? I help people such and such, I help people grow their career faster by sharing what I've learned in my own career as a chief of staff at blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that sort of connects the 2.
That
And
makes
again,
sense.
no one right way. It's just about figuring out what do you want to get out of it and optimizing for that. And if you're at some point, if things changed for you and you were like, no, I really need LinkedIn now to go get another job. That's my priority. You can change it at that point. But for now, it seems like your goal is really to attract people and get them to buy your course.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. None of this is final, right? Like, you can change
Yeah.
things. It's not like you're writing, something in
Yep.
gold or whatever. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Okay. Let's get to your third question. What's the last thing you want to know?
Okay, and then you sort of touched upon this a tiny bit, but I'd love to get your perspective on what are ways I can boost the value of the different products I offer. You talked about that I have a lead magnet, I have this no longer going to be $6.99
Mhm.
project tracker, and then I have like my course, which is 750. I'm just curious, what are ways that I can totally increase that value I give people at each stage of the process?
So let me start with some sort of key principles when it comes to value here, right? So here are three ways to boost the value of a product you sell. The first one, give people the bare minimum they need to get the result they want as quickly as possible. Now that sounds counterintuitive, like how is giving them the bare minimum going to make it more valuable? But here's an example. If you can teach someone how to do something in 5 minutes, don't take 5 hours to do it. If you had a 5 minute course that actually worked and got them results, and you marketed it and said, hey, I'm not going to give you 5 hours of videos and lessons and modules. This is a 5 minute video. That actually makes it more valuable, not less valuable. People tend to make products bloated because they're insecure about the value of their product. The opposite is true. People's time is an additional investment. So the quicker you can get them the result that they want, the more valuable the thing is. The second way to boost the value of your product is to over deliver on expectations. So people don't spread the word if you just do what you say you're going to do. They might be happy. They might be like, I bought that thing and said it was going to do this. That's great. They don't talk about things that they expect. They talk about things that they didn't expect.
Yeah.
So Seth Godin has a great line about marketing. He says the definition of marketing is make big promises and over deliver. So look for ways, look for little things. By the way, ironically, this is an example of it, right? You did not join my coaching program expecting to be a guest on my podcast and have this conversation. This is a surprise. And when you talk to people, which I know you do, and I super appreciate, when you talk to people and you'll be able to say, hey, the coaching program is amazing and this, that, and the other. And he even had me on the podcast and, all that kind of stuff. So this is an example of sort of over delivering.
Yep.
If I had said up front, you're going to be on the podcast, you'd be like, oh, this is cool. But it wouldn't have the same, oh, I didn't expect that thing. You'd be less likely to talk about it. And then the third way to boost a product's value is when you give people the answer to the test, it's more valuable than teaching them how to answer the question. And it's more valuable because it's quicker. So what I mean by that is if someone is working with me and they want me to help them grow their newsletter and whatever, I can teach them how to write in a welcome email, but I can also just give them a template to use.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every case is different, but when you can do the work for them to a certain extent, right? Or in addition to, I'm not saying not to teach people, but to be able to say, I can say, look, here's how you do a welcome email. And here's a template, just fill in these blanks and you're good to go. Like that boosts the value of the product. And I think a lot of times, especially with educational products, they get hung up on, I'm teaching people what to do. And they forget you can add a couple little things that speed that up and make it a lot easier and therefore much more valuable. Now let's talk about your products. So you basically have three categories of products, like you mentioned before. You have free products, low ticket products, and then high ticket products. So I want to talk about some ways to sort of boost the value of each. So with a free product or a lead magnet or that kind of thing, ideally what you want to do is you want to give people a quick win, something actionable, not just information, but like they gave you their email address, they get this thing, and now they can do something that they couldn't do before. But what's important is that quick win ideally takes them closer to where they need to be to buy your bigger product. So it's a step in that direction. So for example, if my bigger product was a course on how to grow your newsletter, well, maybe I can have a lead magnet that helps someone start their newsletter. Or here's something you can do today that you can do to get one new subscriber. And they do that one thing, they get one new subscriber and they're like, oh, that worked. Now, like maybe his other stuff will work too. And I want that. The second thing to understand about free products is that they're not free. So people are paying with their time and attention and their email address if it's that kind of thing. So I think sometimes people feel like, oh, well, I'm just giving, this doesn't have to be amazing. It's a free thing. Yeah, it's free, but they are actually paying. So you want to make sure that if you're giving them, which is another reason why it's good for free products to be sort of quick wins and simple and short stuff, because it's less of an investment on their part. Again, people make the mistake. They go the other way. They're like, you get my 100-page ebook for free. That's not free. I'm going to have to spend 8 hours reading your 100-page ebook. Like, no, thank you. And then the third thing, a way to sort of boost value of free products is, just because it's free doesn't mean you couldn't give them access to a community or a message board or something where they could ask questions. So you could say, if you get my lead magnet, you get this checklist to do blah, 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 quick win, but you also get access to a private Facebook group with other people who have downloaded this, where you can ask questions, or you get access to, you might know yourself that you'll always answer emails when people give you advice anyway, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
So you could go, you also get access to email me anytime you have a question. It's a benefit. It's a thing you would do anyway, but they don't know that. So it boosts the perceived value.
Yeah.
So that's free products. With low ticket products, I kind of touched on this before, but I think it's important to understand that like low ticket buyers are rarely high ticket buyers. The $7 buyer is usually a different person in a different place, in a different situation, with a different relationship with money than the $750 course buyer. The $750 course buyer probably looks at the $7 thing and that's not going to be enough for me. And again, like I said before, if you offer a really low priced product, it says something about your brand. In some cases, that is good. In a lot of cases where you're selling higher ticket, more premium prices, I think it hurts the brand more so than it helps it. Like I said before, if you're going to do it, you can use it to offset lead generation, right? So it's okay, I'm selling this low ticket price because I'm going to use it to then promote and attract high ticket buyers. But in terms of a potential way you can boost the value for a low ticket product, you could do something where buying the low ticket product unlocks a discount for the higher paid product. So that is an interesting way. So you might have someone, the messaging becomes very different, right? So let's say you have someone that is a hypothetical potential $750 course buyer, but they're not sure. And you say, well, if you buy my $20 product, you get $50 off the bigger course. So now they're going, well, I'm going to buy that just because if I do, now suddenly it feels, well, I'm going to buy it because I can get a taste of sort of what her stuff is like. And I'm not buying it because I want a $20 product, but I'm buying it. It's going to pay for itself if I buy the other thing. So there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but you can link the two products together is another sort of interesting approach. Like for me, when I used to sell skill sessions individually, in addition to the year-long membership, you could buy one skill session for $25. And so, but in my mind, as soon as they did that, the email that they would get would say, hey, if you want to upgrade to the membership, I'll refund your $25. Yeah. So it was a low ticket product, but it was really just a way to get people a step closer to buying the higher ticket product. So I think if you're going to do low ticket, having some relationship and connection to your higher ticket product makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of high ticket products, because that's really what you want to sell, some suggestions about the boosting the value of those. So context is really important. So $750 is what you sell your course for right now. But your target audience, I don't know, maybe, well, let me ask you, what would you say the average salary is for your target audience right now? If you had to guess.
I don't know. Like I'd say probably like 100,000.
Okay. So you might want, first of all, you might want to think about that because it speaks to who you're trying to talk to. But that's about what it's funny because I initially thought like 100,000 and then I was like, maybe I'll even go down and say 75,000. But let's say 100,000 or let's say even 75,000. So you're selling a $750 course to people that are making $75,000 a year and want raises and promotions and whatever. Okay. If your course helps them get a 10% raise via promotion, new job, whatever, they have earned 10x their investment.
Yeah.
They're making $7,500 a year more and they paid $750 for you to help them get it. That's a steal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you need to message that.
Yeah, you're right.
Because they're not going to make that connection. So you're in part of your messaging and your marketing, they're looking at it and they might go, $750 seems like a lot for a course. If you help them understand that the average promotion, the average whatever gets you a 5%, I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure you can find it, gets you a 5% bump in pay.
Yeah.
And you could even give them a calculator or give them a whatever and be like, this is what this course is going to earn for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suddenly $750 seems cheap.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it.
They won't know that unless you message that. So that's what I mean by context is important, right? If you're going to sell high ticket, you need to put in context the value that they're going to get out of that. And suddenly the number seems different. They're not paying. And the truth is, what you're doing is helping them get a result. They're not paying for the information, they're
Right.
paying for the results. So if they believe that what you're going to tell them can help them get that raise, and that's your job to make them understand and believe that it can, then it's a no brainer.
Right.
What you don't want is them going, oh, it's $750 for 6 modules. No, 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 no. It's 700 for you to get a $10,000 raise or
Right.
whatever it is. That's the conversation that you want to have. And you along those lines, you want to talk about the importance of investing in yourself and all of those kinds of things, right? You can be creating content that's not directly promotional that talks about you need to invest in your career.
Yeah. I love that.
You need to invest in, I talk about this a lot of times. Like I have a piece of content that I've shared multiple times that basically says, I'm amazed that someone will spend 100 hours creating a course and then won't spend $100 to promote it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I'm trying to get at is the mindset that people have of the willingness to invest time, but not willingness to invest money.
Yeah.
I think you want to be talking about that as well in your content about if you want to grow your career, you need to be willing to invest in your career
Yeah. Yeah.
in multiple ways, right? That can be education, but that can be, like your thing is one of the ways that they can invest in their career, but you're trying to shift their mindset a bit, just like you're trying to shift their mindset of like, how much is a raise or a promotion or a new job worth to you?
Right.
Probably a lot more than $750.
I love that. And I think that messaging makes a ton of sense. Do you have thoughts for, what do people expect like from a $750 product or like from a course? Maybe we can use skill sessions as sort of an example. I think you do a great job delivering more value and you teach content and then each time we learn something new, right? And so the value sort of comes in what's new that I can apply immediately. And
Mhm.
I'm just curious, what's your formula? Because I feel like you do such a good job of it.
Well, thank you. I think, it's different in every case, but I think it's what they expect ultimately, what they should be paying for is a result,
Yeah.
really. So in your case, it doesn't matter how awesome your stuff is.
Yeah.
If they don't get a
Yeah.
promotion, a raise, a new job, whatever it is that they want, they're not going to feel like it was worth it,
Yeah.
no matter
Right.
how great it is.
You're right.
Right. And no matter how bad it is, if it helps them get what they want or how small it is or whatever, it helps them get what they want, then they're going to, by the way, like you love my stuff and are finding it super valuable and you tell everyone about it. And I love that. But if we have this podcast and you do these things and none of it helps you get customers or get audiences, it doesn't matter if it was good advice or not.
Yeah, you're right.
So for me, and this is also why my messaging, is not, I've really gotten specific on this sort of get clients from content and it's not audience growth and it's not all that other stuff because that is there's clear monetization associated with that. So I will ask people, what is a customer, a client, a buyer worth to you?
Yeah.
What do you charge? And if you charge $10, then okay. And if you pay me $1,000 and you're charging $10, well, I got to help you get a lot of buyers to cover that. If a client of yours pays you $2,000 and I charge you $1,000, one client
Yeah.
pays for itself. And do you feel like what I'm going to give to them and help them with can get them that becomes the equation. It doesn't become how many videos are you going to get, how many cool tips and advice and this and that, and how many calls are we going to have? None of that matters. It's the result. I'm not suggesting you need to do this, but you could say this to people, like it's $750 for the course, or you can pay $1,000 with a $500 guarantee. And if you don't get a promotion within a year of taking the course, I'll give you $500 back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And people can choose whatever they want, but now they're like, okay, now I'm only risking $500. You're confident in your material and your whatever that, okay, if these people do this thing, I'm going to help them get it. You're removing some of the risk. So like you can play with your sort of offers and those kind of things, but that's all that matters. The conversation is really about, they want this result. You're going to help them get this result. Everything else is your own tactics and methods for how you help them get that result.
Yeah.
You don't want to be having the conversation about how many calls is it and is it emails and is it this many video? No, 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 no. Like my job is to help you get this result.
Yeah.
I have come up with ways that I think are the best way to help you get that. And those ways will evolve and over time. But the conversation, the decision you want them making is that result worth this much money?
Yeah.
And do I trust that she can help me?
Yeah.
You trust that I can help you. That's why we're here.
Yeah. I trust
right?
you a lot.
You're not here because I offer these videos or these calls or these whatever, right? So in some ways it's very simple. We all get bogged down into this sort of logistics of it all, but in some ways it's very simple. And you're lucky because the value of what you're selling, again, your audience, a raise, a promotion, anything is going to way more than cover what you're selling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I love your niche. That's why I think it's got a ton of potential.
Yeah.
Because it's a no-brainer. Like if you really could guarantee and somebody knew within a year you're gonna get a 10% raise or 5% raise or whatever, they'd be an idiot not to buy. So all you have to do is remove some of that uncertainty
I
and
love
make
it.
sure that they understand that's what they're buying.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So let me leave you with one last sort of bit here on value, right? So I'm going to give 5 simple ways to boost the value of a course. So the first is you could add a free audit call as a step to the course, either before they buy. So you say, hey, we'll do a call or a form or whatever, and I'll do a free audit of your situation, give you some quick advice, and then you can buy the course. Or once you buy, you get a free audit call before the course, whatever. But adding a sort of free audit, however you define that, is an easy way to boost the value of the course. The second one is sharing your materials from the course. So
Yeah.
notes, slides, all these things, which it seems obvious, but again, I was doing these presentations all the time and I don't know, I was like, oh, they have the video. I never thought of it. And then people were like, can I see your notes? Can I have the slides? And I was like, oh yeah, why don't I just give that to people? Like they value that. It's no additional work on my part. And yet I didn't think about it. So sharing your materials. The third way to boost the value of a course, add a follow-up call or a check-in as an upsell or for free. So you say you buy the course and again, I'll throw in a 3-month check-in afterwards where I'll check in with you and see how it's going and if you've made any progress or need any help. Or you could do that as an upsell, right? $750 for the course. For $1,000, I'll add in a 3-month and 6-month check-in call. So
Yeah.
you package it however you want, but that's an easy way to sort of post-course call or check-in can help boost the value. The fourth thing you could do is you could add 6 months of support where they could email you at any time.
Yeah.
6 months, 3 months, whatever you want. Again, in most cases, you would do this anyway. Someone bought from you, they had a question 2 months later, they emailed you, you're going to answer them anyway. So why not message that? They don't know that. It sounds like, oh, because I think one of the fears people have is they take a course and then they're on their own. And what if I don't stick with it? What if I have questions? That can be comforting to them. And for you, it doesn't really add a lot of work because you would do it anyway. And then the fifth simple way to boost the value of your course is to add a discounted rate on future or additional products.
Mm.
So you could do something that is essentially once you become my customer, once you become a buyer, moving forward, either you have additional products you offer or you might in the future, you just say, moving forward, you now get the customer rate, which is a 10% discount on everything I do moving forward. Costs you nothing upfront. You haven't even set the prices of your future products. So if you want, you could just raise the prices of those 10% to make up for the discount for the returning customer rate. And it's just a really easy perk for people to give them additional value. So those 5 things: free audit call, share your materials, add a follow-up call or check-in, add 6 months of support where they can email you, or add a discounted rate on future or additional products. Any of those things can help you boost the value of your course.
I love it. Josh, thank you. I have taken away so much. You are definitely helping me think about how I can get clients from content. So you're hitting your
Good.
mark right there. So thank you. This has been so eye-opening and definitely probably like the best call I've been on the last year or like the last half year. So I appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks so much. Let people know where they can check out your stuff, where they can follow you, see your course, all that other stuff.
Absolutely. Check out hisallyivester.com. I'm actually redoing the website right now through another skill session member through Josh. And so you're building this community already. And I'd love to just help you. You can find like my free newsletter, my lead magnet, or probably going to change its shape after this call, and then also get access to the course. So I'm here to help if you ever need anything. Thank you.
But for my stuff, my newsletter, fortheinterested.com/subscribe, joshspector.com/group coachings, where you can learn about my group coaching program. joshspector.com/clients is where you can learn about my private coaching program. You've already logged off because this podcast episode's over. And I know people don't listen to the promos at the end. That's why I do the promos earlier in the episode. Anyway, that is it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I will see everybody next time.